This is a reading comprehension passage with a set of 4 questions. Let's look at the first question. Which of the following options best expresses the central theme of the passage? Throughout the passage, the author talks about how reading literary fiction will help improve empathy of the reader. He talks about some experiments and data to reinforce this idea. Let's look at the first paragraph of the passage again. Have you ever felt that reading a good book makes you better able to connect with your fellow human beings? If so, the result of new scientific study back you up, but only if your reading material is literary fiction. Pulp fiction or non-fiction will not do. This tells us that reading literary fiction will help you understand your fellow human beings better, will help you empathize with your fellow human beings better. Hence, the correct answer to this question will become option A. Reading literary fiction improves empathy. The paragraph also states that this is true of literary fiction and not of other forms of fiction. Hence, option D will become incorrect because D talks only about reading. So, not any reading will help, but only literary reading will help. Option C is incorrect because the main purpose of the passage is not to compare and contrast literary fiction from other forms, but to understand why reading literary fiction will affect a person's psychology. Option B is incorrect because it doesn't mention literary fiction at all, and hence the primary purpose of the passage is not explained. Correct answer will be option A. The next question says, which of the following options best explains why literary fiction help reader become more empathetic? Let's go back to the passage to answer this question. Look at this paragraph. It says some writing is what you call writerly. You fill the gaps and participate, and some is readerly and you are entertained. We tend to see readerly more in genre fiction like adventure, romance, thrillers, while the author dictates your experience as a reader. Literary fiction lets you go into new environment and you have to find your own way. The author also says in the passage that because in the literary fiction there are certain gaps in the characters and the reader is bound to explore these gaps and understand the psychology of the character better. This in process helps his own understanding and improves his empathy. Now let's go back to our options. Option A says the genre is more readerly and helps the audience better understanding a story and hence connect with it. It's not about understanding the story, but rather understanding the psychology of the characters. That is why option A is incorrect. Option B says the genre helps the reader connect with the plot and identify with it in real life. Again, the understanding that improves is not of the plot and its connection to real life, but of the characters and similar human beings in real life and understanding the psychology of these characters and hence the human beings in real life. Option C says the author weave their story in a manner that helps the readers identify with psychology of others. This is true, as the author of the passage has also said that stories in literary fiction are written in a way so that the reader has to find his own way, his own path, and hence his understanding will improve. Option D says those who read literary fiction score higher than others in tests that are related to emotions and their identification. This may be true, but the reason for why this is true is not given, and hence option D is also not correct. Next question says, according to Kidd and Castano, which of the following would best explain the tendency to empathize through literary fiction? Now, the passage mentions that the understanding that Kidd and Castano bring in on is why readers find an improvement in empathy after going through literary fiction. In the passage, the reader uses the same psychological processes of understanding things in real life that he does while reading literary fiction, and that is why the empathy in real life also improves. This gives us answer as option B. The genre is social experience and hence not very different from real life experiences. Next question says, which of the following options would best help understand why Castano and Kidd were hesitant to label a piece of writing as literary? Option A says it would require an entirely different kind of effort to determine the stylistic pattern of literary fiction. Now, option A is incorrect because there is no indication in the passage that the psychologist felt that they could categorize literary work, but only that they felt that certain kind of literary work had certain effect on the mind. Hence, option A is incorrect. Option B says they did not want to deviate from the purpose of their profession. Now, the purpose of the profession is not really mentioned in the passage, hence we cannot really comment on it. Option C says it was not logical to use psychological result of reading literary fiction to determine what literary fiction is. Option C is correct because this is also mentioned in the passage that the authors of the research paper, which were Castano and Kidd, were hesitant to say that because psychological results show that this is the impact of a reading X on the mind, hence reading X can be characterized as literary fiction. Option D says as psychologists they were not qualified to do so. This is again not substantiated in the passage, hence will not be correct.